Well, last Monday in Paris, Lionel Messi won his record 7th Ballon d'Or award. Today in the City of Light, Messi looks to add to his tally of 3 Champions League goals in 4 games for PSG as the French Giants host Bruges. Meanwhile, over in Germany, after the firing of Jesse Marsch, managerless RB Leipzig face Group A winners Manchester City. For Leipzig, a win or same result as Bruges will see them into the Europa League at the Belgian champions' expense. So, must-win matches across our Champions League map today. The 6 games later on include Real Madrid, Inter Milan, a big showdown for first place in Group D. Porto or Milan is where second place in Group B will be decided. Liverpool has already won that group, but AC Milan, Porto and Atletico Madrid all still alive and well to move on in that group. And in the 2 early games, Manchester City and PSG are already through, but RB Leipzig and Bruges are vying for the Europa League berth, so 3rd spot still up for grabs. Very warm welcome along to our studio here in London. I'm Kate Abdo. We've got Alex Scott and Micah Richards with us in the studio later on today, but with RB Leipzig kicking off in less than 10 minutes' time now, we wanted to start by talking about Leipzig firing Jesse Marsch on Sunday. So let's do that with Jamie Carragher, former US international, and one of Marsch's former players, Mo Adu. It's a big story in America, right? And it's a big story in football. And I think it's interesting to know that Jesse Marsch went through that whole... He was groomed for this position with his time at Salzburg and at New York Red Bulls before that. Where do you think this leaves him now in terms of his career? What's next after this?
You know, I'll be curious to see where he goes. Obviously, as an American, you're cheering for American coaches, American players that have success in Europe. And I don't think he did himself any harm in going to Europe, having success with Salzburg. Obviously, Leipzig was the next step up, a bigger club in a better league, tougher competition.
Does this make people question whether he can take that next step, or do you just think different opportunity and it'll work out differently?
He's going to get questioned, of course, because he's been fired from a job where, to your point, he was groomed. He was the culture, the system was one that he started off with the academy and worked his way all the way to the top. And then he didn't have success there. And now he's fallen out of favor there. But again, I think there will still be opportunities for him, and possibly in Europe as well. I think before he took over the Leipzig role, there were different teams that were interested in because of what he did at Salzburg, the success that he had there, not just domestically, but in Champions League as well, playing some tough games, doing decent in the group stages as well. Obviously, a big knock for him. He would have loved to have had success there at Leipzig and shown his worth, but I don't think it closes the door for him. The next step, where he goes from there, will be an interesting one to see for sure.
It kind of feels like it was a difficult job for him to take over because you're following Julian Nagelsmann. That's hard enough. You're also missing the top 2 centre-backs that Nagelsmann had in Konate and Upamecano. You haven't really replaced Timo Werner's goals. Do you think it was kind of set up to fail in some ways?
Yes. In some ways, it was always going to be a difficult job. We are talking about a guy who's now moved to Bayern Munich, and Nagelsmann, who everybody thinks will be the next Jurgen Klopp or Pep Guardiola. So it was always going to be a tough job, but it's a job he couldn't turn down. And the experience of actually Champions League and the actual experience of it not going well, that is part of a coach or a manager's ride along through his journey as a coach. He will be in a job sooner or later. He's been part of that stable, as Mo mentioned, of RB Leipzig, Salzburg, going back to obviously Red Bulls as well. So he's part of that. And sometimes I actually feel, should they actually come away from that? You know, you're always sort of linked into that as if you're just part of this one group. You can still have the same philosophy of playing football, but it might actually be good for him to come away from that, use the experience of that, the ups, the downs, Champions League experience, and go again as a coach.
We want to